Hi everybody, it's Kathy Loves to Scrap, and I'm here today showing how my layout for day 1 of the series 14 Christy's Beautiful Life 30 Days Sketches came together. This is from Facebook, but you can see it on all the socials. This beautiful sketch came from Ginger's Corner by Ginger, and it is a very workable sketch. I created this layout from my recent cruise with my daughter. We were in Airlie Beach, Queensland, and this was perfect for these photos. So I'm just going to walk you through how this came together. I started with my 3 photos, of course, myself and my daughter, and I've got both ends of Airlie Beach where we came out just outside the markets in the main town so that we could capture our day off the cruise. I'm using some enamel dots, and I've gone ahead and I've cut myself all the arrows that are from that great sketch that Ginger exclusively created for this series. I've got a strip here from an old Kaisercraft piece of paper, but you'll see I actually end up not using it throughout the sketch, but I've always pulled together what could possibly be used, and some make it to the page and some don't. Alright, so I'm going to use this red colour just to give it a bit of pop, because it can tie in with the little plate. I've got blue here as a mounting square. I've chosen this Kaisercraft paper as well. I like with the Doppler effect in the background and the palm trees, and the colours reflect my photos and give off that beachy vibe which I'm looking for from that day that we spent in Airlie Beach. So I'm cutting off the strip as I always do. I only cut about 1/4 of an inch off the top and the bottom to make sure that it fits into my page. I cut out the centre of my red frame because I use that to mount my photos, and this time I'm mounting all 3 of the photos so they go down the side of the page as Ginger had in the sketch. I'm using my double-sided tape as always. Remember, I like to use expressive tape when I can. So I'm going to mount all of these photos because the red will just pop it off the blue background and make the photos not blend in or fade. Trimming off that little tag there, and I'm going to mount it in the blue just to keep the colours the same and accentuate it across the page so that balance is there. Alright, so I've got that all together. I'm using Salty Ocean from Tim Holtz to distress the edges. That's really important because that too gives it a bit of a lift off the edge. I like to make sure that I seal it down by doing one edge at a time. That way I don't get a buckle in my frame. There's the sketch again, so I'm just going to place all of the photos into place and start building the page. So I have my 3 photos from Airlie Beach, the top, the edge, and of course my daughter and I put them in across the edge as the sketch. So I pretty much stayed very, very close to the sketch. Yep, it just lends itself nicely, and the background picks up the difference, and you can see how the photos and the images just blend nicely with that background. I popped this middle photo because when I look at it, I like to have a little bit of a shadow in some of my pages. I'm using the red here to continue the red in the square, but I'm not having it as a full frame. I'm going to do it like a cascade. So it's a cascade, like the Doppler is a cascade, like the photos like a cascade down the page from and you can see that it's spreading across. I'm going to put it into place and taped it down and put it together so that that cascading happens across the page. And I'm going to pop that above it to promote that shadow effect that I like, especially when I'm clustering. All of these arrows I die cut out of cardstock, just scraps and what I had laying around, and I used Kaisercraft die through my DIY cuts to cut it out so that I could put the arrows very similar to the layout, very similar to the sketch design. As I say, I followed it pretty closely. I'm just layering up my clusters, and I like it that there's 3 because, you know, 3s are pleasing to the eye, and I'm adding in little bits that I have lying around. I've got 3 little die cut words, happy, together, and smile. they're building in my cluster. I also cut out some seagulls because we're at the beach and they just fit in. I always cut out more than I need. When I was working on it, I thought that the clusters were a bit flat, so I then went and cut out these palm fronds. But I'm going to use the negative space and I'm going to ink in like a stencil, and that one's a bit pale, so I got some more ink from my salty ocean and added that in. And that's always good with a negative when you die cut. You can use it for a stencil and build your page so that it complements. And that throws a shadow in under, like the palm tree is throwing a shadow under the sun. And then once I'm happy, I just keep building my layers up with my custard glues. You never know if you're finished until you look back at it and you go, no, it needs a little bit more. And that's why I added those palm fronds. I put in the words, they stick together nicely. Put in the seagull, and I pop the seagull, so once again it comes up out of the cluster and doesn't sit flat but adds some dimension and looks good when you look from a distance. And I'm layering in that leaf there, and as you can see the shadow looks more effective as though it's reflecting what the palm tree is doing. Alright, the cluster comes together nicely. They're not very big clusters. I've kept them small on purpose because I want the focus on the photos. I use my tacky glue to put down my arrows, and they're in the layout, and as I said, I kept really closely to the original sketch. Just putting them down, and I'm staggering them so they look like they're in flight and they're pointing to the photos and drawing the eye over to what is the main part of this layout. Alright, so I'm now going to add a title. Oh, no, actually, well, before I do the title, I'm going to do my little faux stitching around the edges because I thought that the border, even though it's framed, it was still a little bit flat. So I've added in some faux stitching around to give it a bit of an extra dimension and a lift off the page because it's looking good, but I was feeling that was a little bit flat. I'm putting in some stickers now to build up the title Airlie Beach so that when you look at it you know where this was taken. We had a nice day when we were there actually, and it was a warm day and we were able to swim in a private little beach, not here at Airlie Beach itself because of the stingers at the time, but we were shown a private beach where they had an area that was man-made and free of the stingers, so it was good. My daughter really wanted her time at the beach, so I made sure that we got to swim in the beach that day. I'm putting these enamel dots in clusters of 3, as you can see, and they build up the actual cluster and draw the eye into that triangle. And it's really important, if you look at the triangle, it brings you to that center photo. And I like how this is coming up. Once again, I need to put in my date. It's from our cruise, just so that we know when it happened. And this time, instead of putting it down to the bottom of the page like I normally do, I've chosen to put it up at the title so that the date is in under there and you know when this was actually taken, which was November last year, as we did a cruise, and I was actually on there doing a class with Vicky Booton, which was quite a thrill as well. Date stamps I find a part of my journaling kit and very important in keeping track of when things happen. So I add the date in, and I use archival ink because it doesn't bleed and it's clean. And there's my page. I'm just going to add in at the bottom this time who's in the photos. That's important in journaling as well. Remember, in the future when people look back, they like to know who was in the photo and why it was important. So I've just put down my daughter's name and myself, added that down in under that bottom photo. So that's how this layout came together. It was a quick and simple, clean layout, and I love the sketch from Ginger, and in the 30 days of scrapbooking for March that you can find all over the socials if you just look up the hashtag series 14 30 days of scrapbooking. And this is the final outcome of this sketch created by Ginger's Corner. exclusively for this series, and I like how it came. At the bottom of my feed here, I'll have a list of other videos from this sketch that other people have done, so you can see how this sketch has so many different takes. Thanks for watching. Have fun being scrappy over the weekend or the days to come. And remember, you can follow me on Insta, Kathy Loves to Scrap. It's Kathy here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.